Hey, good morning. Greetings. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you are here. It is June 13th, 2022. Welcome to the Starseed Ministry. Welcome back, everyone. Of course, if you're new here, wow, what a great time to just pop in for the first time. Thank you for being here. Truly appreciate you. Hello to the Starseed Fellowship. We've had a really great conversation in our Zoom gathering this past week. We're going to have the Catalyst Classroom this coming Thursday evening. I will be putting out promotional material for that very soon. So if you're not on my email list, if you're not on Telegram, but you want to see what this is all about, you can follow all of the links in the description box below that will talk about the Starseed Ministry, that will direct you to the Catalyst Classroom and to my website, which is going to have everything that you need anyway. So how is everyone feeling? I know that not everyone has an actual weekend on the days designated Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but that is definitely my weekend. So, and many people do kind of follow that same trajectory. So, let's make sure everything's good here. Yes. So I just want to see how people are doing, how you're feeling. This I'm showing you just to start off because we're in a very beautiful time in terms of the night sky or the living sky or the actual configuration of what we see above us. And right now, Mercury today is coming into Gemini in its still in its retrograde shadow for a couple more days, but still coming into its home territory, 0 degrees Gemini. That means longitudinally, it is conjunct Alcyon, and what you can see here is this configuration in a straight diagonal line from Mercury that you can see down here all the way up to where Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius. So this was taken most likely with a telescope, so you can actually see Neptune very faintly, well, barely, right here, and even Uranus. There is probably some sort of faint designation here, but you really can't see anything past Saturn with the naked eye in terms of our solar system. But this is right before the sun comes up, right? And it can be very difficult to see Mercury rising at dawn unless you are in a very flat place or you happen to be in a very high place to see it. But you get this really beautiful configuration. So if you find yourself in a position where you can get up pre-dawn in order to see it, now's the time. I'd say within the week and post-solstice as well. That's going to be it's going to be in this basic configuration. So this is one way to very simply connect ourselves with the actual cycles of the cosmos, of our relationship with all of these celestial bodies, regardless if you think it's exoteric and material, if you feel like it is esoteric and more energetic and spiritual. We're still all impacted by each other in this solar system, in this galaxy, certainly in this universe. So this is one easy way to, if you can find yourself getting up pre-dawn, you can go out and look at the night sky, and there's just natural configuration. And this is something that someone had brought up actually in a previous Zoom session as a question, because you can see a very similar configuration in the line of sight from Sirius through the belt of Orion up through Aldebaran and the Pleiades. And again, this line and this line of sight in terms of all of these things lining up has a meaning. And even if we have to interpret it for ourselves, it still provides some measure of meaning, right? That all of these aspects are in a line of sight, aligned with each other. And it just seems right now is a great time to just behold that and be aware of the bigger picture at play here, which is a big part of the title for today's Starseed Ministry, that evolution is a journey. It's not a destination. And destination is something that's built into and baked into the Gemini archetype in some ways. And since the sun is here and Mercury is now going to be in Gemini, we have a moon in Sagittarius. We have a full moon in Sagittarius that's coming tomorrow morning, actually. being able to kind of grok this, I think, is really important. So we're going to have our reading today that I'm going to go over. I have just a little bit of space weather to review. I'm sure most of you kind of felt it yourselves yesterday, right? There was a big flare from the sun that lasted a long time. And it might be the biggest, the longest duration, most intensity flare that's happened this cycle so far. I'm not entirely sure about that, but just kind of looking at that, how did you feel last night? I know for me, I was waking up in the middle of the night, just like sweating and really overheated and just like awake. And you'll see that this flare popped off at about midnight Eastern time, right? 4 a.m. Universal time. So last night into late last night into this morning, there was definitely some impact, right? It lasted for 3 hours. So I'm curious how people were feeling, if they felt any kind of disruption in their sleep last night or any other disruption energetically. The Scorpio moon was very intense for many people. And we had Venus conjunct Uranus while the moon was opposite. So I talked about a lot of this in the astrology reports that are already up on this platform, whatever platform you're watching this on. There's a forecast for Sagittarius people for this full moon, and there is a weekly astrology report that's up on the platforms as well, so that you can check that out. And today we're just kind of check in with the energetics, maybe review a little bit of the astrology for the weekend, get a sense of what to expect here with our reading, and just check in with this moon in Sag and our full moon that's coming tomorrow and beyond. So I'm going to check in with the stream here and see how people are feeling. I love the chat on YouTube. I would love to, seems like it's the one that works the best right now. But it's in the chat. So let's see. Alex K says both days. Yeah, you are in a place where that's no joke. So really important to take care of yourself in that situation. Emily says, I'm feeling really good. Lots of personal revelations and growth. And also sunburn, right? Oh, there's that purification by fire that seems to be a theme that keeps running back around. Barb says, I'm feeling rejuvenated too. Great healing yesterday. Mercury conjunct Alcyon and my natal noon today. Woohoo! Activations afoot. Oh, definitely. I am feeling that too. It seems like there's lots of heat going on in a good way, and we made it and we're here. Thank you so much for you guys being here, and I'm glad that you made it. Yeah, the sunburn, the purification by fire, that seems to be going around, and definitely a lot of personal revelations and growth. I'm feeling that too. I feel personally very rejuvenated. It was an intense weekend emotionally, like deep within. And I think a lot of that has to do with the Scorpio moon and crossing the South Node. There was a lot of really strong personal connection back to where we have been, and all of the benefit of that, all of the reality of that, and Venus and Uranus in a conjunction with each other, just opposite that Scorpio moon at the same time. I think establishing truly what is important now to us, right? To our awakening process, whatever that means to you, to humanity's evolution, and the opposition or the tension or that intuitive, deep remembering of how we got here in the first place, of how we can live in a transpersonal way with that Scorpio element, where we can be an expression or create from that divine place within, but that also can stand for creating from that place of harnessing power. Wherever that power is coming from, it's going to have a big impact on the nature of meaning and the establishment that we're part of, right? These Scorpio and 8th house themes that you see progress through the chart, just like they progress through our lives and through our own journey. So I think there was a strong remembering and a feeling, at least that I experience, right, as a moon Scorpio person, and I have a stellium of stuff in Scorpio as well, to have the South Node here. In terms of my 9th house, right, little astrology here, my 9th house being a very heavy Sag person, I'm going to identify with that 9th house a little bit easier. And in fact, it's an Arcturian starseed marking for me, my ninth house cusp. And so to have it gets very deep into the power dynamics in terms of the larger picture that I connect into. And sometimes it can be very difficult for me to pull myself out of that place, and I have to actually make a concerted effort and be very conscious of that, and put myself in a place where that is way more productive, which is usually not talking to anyone, because it's just too much, right? If I start talking or processing certain things, and not leaving them in my body, at least it is just at the depth, right? There are very few people that are willing to hold space for those really deep, dark places without getting pulled in. And I think that that's actually something that was established for all of us as an opportunity over the weekend. Venus in our bodies, a sense of especially in Taurus, right? I mean, it really is into what is important, what is valuable, what is comfortable and secure in the things that matter to us, and how that is all wrapped up in this awakening process. That South Node action felt like a recap. This is from Barb, and a purification. A recap is a great way to describe it, at least in my personal opinion. That's how I felt about it as well, right? You can't keep going back to that same type of energy without falling back into it. So it's a reminder, but also a sense of this is where we're going now. And in fact, Venus today, speaking of where we're going now and the soul's evolution, Venus is soon to conjunct Rahu, or the north node of the moon, right? The head of the dragon. So that's and she's in a position where the nodes in Uranus are going to be in a conjunction later. So as of today. So there is, I think, right now we can really start to embody, or really start to sense in the materium, or honestly, the electromagnetic field. I feel like that's what Venus really allows for, is the material, physical, visceral sensation of changes in electromagnetism. Ooh, this is a great segue into something I wanted to bring up, because we've been talking about time, and I do feel like there is a stasis point, or some sort of shift in time now that Saturn is in its retrograde. So I'm going to link it in the description box below after I'm done streaming, but just to kind of refamiliarize yourself, start a new process of consideration around time in a physics way, and what it has to do with gravity and electromagnetism and our relationship to time as a personal experience. So one of the things I've brought forward that I'm still working with, and I'm sure other people have already confirmed this in their own way, but I really have to go through it myself in order to be able to put it forward. I just can't listen to other people say, hey, this is happening for me, and then be like, yeah, that's happening. But it is happening for me, and it's happening for other people as well in our fellowship circles, right? Clients, personal conversations, this time distortion or some sort of temporal change, and being very related to electromagnetism and that impact on gravity. And when we talk about the Schumann resonance is the frequency of the electromagnetics, right? Of the ionosphere and the magnetosphere that surrounds the planet. And so when that changes and our relationship to it changes, time will change. Our perception of time will change. The experience of time will change. And if we're going to talk about going from third to fourth to fifth density, fourth dimension, and in fact the density of the fourth realm here, it seems to be about traveling through time, which is exclusively, I think, up until probably recently been an astral experience. You have to leave your physical body. Well, part of our evolutionary process, I do believe at this point, is the bridging of this, right? The bridging of time with our physical nature to understand how to move through it, how it is different in this dimension. And I think that we're actually going through that process physically. And the Earth is kind of, mitigating this process, or at least she's going through it, or has gone through it, and is able to be kind of like an anchor in some ways, or has the template in place that allows us to then experience it. So it's pretty heady, at least for me, but this is kind of where the conversation has been leading to. So I'm just going to link. It's a History Channel thing. It's a series called In Search Of. It's narrated and hosted by Zach Quinto. If you are familiar, he played Spock in the reboot of the Star Trek movies, right, with Chris Pine and all that. So I know the History Channel's owned by Disney, right? Part of having sharp discernment is being able to take in information, knowing where it's coming from and who stands to gain by a spin, and still getting information. So he's exploring time in this episode. So what I thought was, I linked to it, and it talks about gravity, natural time slips in certain locations on the planet, certain experiences that change our perception of time. And when we start thinking about time differently, then we become, outside of the realm of strict materialist control in some ways, and we exit the matrix in a lot of, or the hologram of the matrix, and we start realizing how empowered we are with our own reality that we actually are. So that's just the time element. We'll get into the reading because it's going to come back in. We're going to see that things are really kind of slowing down in some ways, and our consciousness is absolutely not slowing down and is running, just like Mercury now coming into Gemini, the sun in Gemini. But soon we're going to have to really anchor that into some sort of integration, and that's what the solstice is going to be for. So Barb says, I'm embodiment of Venus. The embodiment of Venus in Taurus for me manifested through using crystal skulls to heal and support me through this full moon. I'm feeling more connected to the earth changes as reciprocal. Yeah, like like a circuitry, right? Or a capillary system, especially if you tap into your earth star. And you're able to, be part of the larger system that is in place between us and all life, really. It's like a web. So let's I just want to share the space weather with you real quick, right? Here's the Schumann, especially today, right? Last night into yesterday, last night into today, right? It's starting to amplify again. It's going back up to 46. And anybody who's tracking it, I think we know, we can see now, we can feel it, we can make the connections within our own experience, our own bodies, people around us, situations around us. And here's a big sunset spot group that's coming into facing Earth right now, 3032. This is where that big M-class flare came from. Here's a good picture of it from spaceweather.com. It lasted for 3 hours, right? So from, basically midnight Eastern time up through the whole night. It was just blasting. So whether or not a CME comes, I think it's a pretty smart, or a pretty strong guess that we're going to get one. And coronal hole, look at it, it's facing right at us. And so this solar wind's going to start coming in any minute now, and it may already start to be doing so because we see this little blip in the KP index, right? The calmness of the magnetosphere. And so if solar wind and plasma is hitting us, right, it's going to disturb the calmness of that area. So, and earthquake watch, right? Now, there's something else that I wanted to clear up because I thought it was interesting, because we talked about this on Friday, that there was a lot of really shallowly measured earthquakes around the Tibetan Plateau around the time that there were some pretty big amplifications in the or quality, right? There's an amplification in the quality of the Schumann's, but not a lot of amplifying volume, right? There was an increase in the quality, a drop in the frequency, and there's all these shallow earthquakes. Well, I saw that our friend Cliff High had posted something about 10 kilometer deep measured earthquakes, because it's pretty standard, and I knew that must have been like a default setting, and so many people who are have insiders or seem to be truthers, whatever you want to call them, will often say, well, this is the dumbs, right? The deep underground bases that are being blown out, right? And what Cliff, I knew that there was something else going on, but I never researched it deeper. Well, the 10-kilometer seismographic measurement is a default setting when something is not actually being measured properly. So it always defaults, I didn't know this, it always defaults back to 10 kilometers. And that is very shallow. I mean, 10 kilometers deep is not very deep to have the Earth be moving around. So it's because the seismograph in its measurement, there's something off, and so it defaults to that. It doesn't actually measure the actual depth. So that's something to consider and to be aware of. And again, there's that discernment. We have to be sharp. And how easily you can take a piece of information and use that to prove or to substantiate something where it doesn't, right? Correlation does not equal causation. And in fact, if you don't even have your details right, then you're just promoting things that are completely false in order to what? Oh, I don't know, get attention, get clicks, make money, right? Lead people in the wrong direction. This is something that I think is going to be very amplified with this full moon in terms of, has it been worth it, right? All of the resistance, all of that Gemini energy that has gone into polarization of dialectic behavior and just interaction with each other, right? Getting back to the human experience and realizing that there is no destination that we are waiting to just happen other than a singular moment of transmutation, which then splits it all back up again, and we go through the process again, right? We continue to spiral, we continue to spiral faster, right? That's the higher frequency. So I just wanted to bring attention to that because I thought that was interesting. And it also showed that I didn't have the full story. I knew that it wasn't exactly, if certain people are saying things, I kind of gotten to the point where I know not to. It's probably the opposite of what they're saying. So probably, but there's something in there that is meant to trigger people in all kinds of directions. So anyway, let's move on to this reading for today. So, all right, friends. Here we go. I'm excited for this full moon, personally. That's my personal opinion about all of it. I'm excited. Like I said, in the forecast itself, this is the first full moon in Sagittarius in 2 solid years that has not been eclipsed, okay? That's a big deal. That is a big deal because the moon in Sag a lot of times is where we really feel into our collective strength because it's based on the pattern of meaning established by understanding, by transmutation, right? Those things are interchangeable. When you understand, like when you have an aha moment, you are having these micro transmutations all the time because you're like, oh, I get it. So Mercury and Pluto retrograde, they were in a trine with each other. That last trine, Mercury has passed over this trine point with Pluto many times now in the last couple of weeks. This was the last one in this retrograde period, and the moon was at 0 degrees Scorpio as soon as it happened. So again, perspective, mature perspective without experiencing the opposition. How can you ever fully understand something? So did we learn from the last 2 years of the nodal axis being in Gemini and Sag? Did we actually utilize this? Or has it reinforced just being caught in the feedback loop? And this full moon is going to make it pretty clear, I think, and clearer than it has been, right? Without the eclipse overlay to distort this full moon in Sag. Are we we're always going home when we're on this pathway of evolution because we've never left, right? That is that's the Piscean and Neptunian experience of this. But Sagittarius brings it down to, okay, Earth school and Earth graduate school, really. That's where we are now. So, and we can go back over the astrology again before we end. I just want to start transitioning into this reading here, because it really does actually lay out some things around time and around material reality, and the fact that things are going to be in some ways slowing down and stretching out with all of this retrograde, and also time to really get down to what is actually important about our lives, right? And not waiting for anyone to come save us, but to see every situation as an opportunity to basically save ourselves and grow. So our first point of reference here is this causal factor of the six of discs, right? Success, right? The moon in Taurus. So we didn't have a moon in Taurus. We had a moon in Scorpio, where it represented, this is all of the money magic. This is all of the ritual magic. This is all of the deep power underlying our conscious mind that really is where manifestation comes from. It is in the subconscious. So, but the moon in Taurus, the six of discs, this is a very harmonious moment. Success. And it's not success that just, drops in our lap or it just comes out of nowhere. This is something that is learned from disappointment, from loss, from pain, at a material level. And this is nothing taken for granted so easily anymore, right? This is a sense of real emotional groundedness, I feel like, after the last 2 years of the nodal axis being Gemini and Sag. And now with Mercury coming into Gemini and the Sun currently here in this first full moon of Sag without any eclipse energy, it's like, I feel it now. And remember, Mercury was in Taurus when it was in trine to Pluto over the weekend, right? This is, that was intense. That Scorpio moon opposite Venus and Uranus and coming into Scorpio as Mercury and Pluto are in this trine, right? Mercury was in Taurus at the Pleiades. So this is like a mature perspective within our own self, our own feelings, our own experience, and something personal, something that we can really feel into and feel comfortable and secure with, because we've learned something from and have gained a wiser attitude. So you can see that people are preparing themselves in so many ways in terms of materialism, right? Reallocating their resources, being more realistic about what they are. For me personally, like, I am done driving. I don't have to drive anyway, but it's like, okay, I got to get back on my bike and commute to where I need to go. There's no reason I can't be doing that again. And so that's, people are going to be not taking things for granted materially and really stepping into a sense of where it's coming from and having a much wiser attitude. Now, the swiftness here with this Eight of Wands reversed, at the heart of things is, things have been moving swiftly, I think. And this is Mercury in Sag. Well, Mercury's coming into Gemini, right? That is the opposite of Sag. We also have a full moon in Sag. The moon currently is in Sagittarius. So in this reversal here, this Eight of Wands, especially at the heart of us, it's almost like the swiftness, again, maybe not necessarily turning inward towards activation or and that could definitely be it. But the first thing I thought was just things slowing down. Because when this is reversed in a negative way, you got a lot of rash behavior, you have a lot of jealousy, you have a lot of thoughtlessness, things are happening too quickly, or you are just going over details over and over, right? You are not actually... You're disputing all of the small things. So this does feel like a stasis point that maybe is within ourselves, but also too is a sense of needing to. The negative of this is rapacious. Ooh, I love that word. Rapaciousness, right? Which is very greedy, and it's just like my precious, right? And jealous and insolent. All of these negative things here. So what I get the sense here is that this swiftness, right? This is the wands, the Eight of Wands is really going to be turned turned directly inward. So you can't even turning directly inward, and also showing us possibly how, maybe being too rash, right? We got Mars in Aries, we got Jupiter in Aries, right? We have Chiron in Aries, and I'm telling you, Mars and Chiron conjunct, very soon, right after the full moon, actually. So this is kind of a moment of stasis, I think, in action, and not in a negative way, in a way that is just allowing us to kind of, again, behold what has what understanding we have come to, right, within ourselves. We don't necessarily need to be shooting it out everywhere like this usually means. But Mercury in Gemini, I mean, there is a sense of swiftness, but there's no fire action. In fact, it's kind of outside the bounds of time and space with Mercury and Gemini, right? It is the consciousness able to transcend such things. So again, that's when time really does stop, doesn't it? When we are moving at the speed of light in our own mind. And this is a big part of how time travel through any kind of astral modality, right? Quantum hypnosis, right? Dolores Cannon. What else? Any type of past life regression, because it's the consciousness that is able to move. And I really got this strong vibe from this card when it popped out. So what I think is interesting here is that we are getting an opportunity to kind of realign with our higher self. Now, light of the world, this is reversed. This is at the root here energetically, perhaps going on subconsciously. It hasn't fully expressed itself yet, or we're just not fully aware. So when it's reversed, I mean, it really is like, hello, your higher self is knocking and you're really not paying attention. Or we have had to really... we're either not paying attention or we are just caught up in other things that are gaining our focus. And I would say that the things that have been gaining our focus are the dialectic, right? The polarization, and not even just in a mental way, but certainly in an emotional way. That's been the case for many people over the last couple of years, and the larger social context too of watching it all unfold. And that can really turn our attention away from our spiritual and inner journey and ourselves. And as long as we ignore this part of who we are, we're turning away from our greatest source of power, right? And so I do get the sense that we have to open the door now, or open the door to our higher self, or at least come to an awareness that maybe we haven't fully been engaged. And I feel like this crowd, for the most part, is already aware of the blind spots, right? Or where we haven't answered the door. And I think, again, the moon in Scorpio over the weekend was a pretty big indicator of where this is for us, and how we keep ourselves from connecting here. And part of this is the way we push other people away, or how we get into that really heart-centered battle, even within ourselves or our own guidance. So we'll get to the guidance around this, but this is the 1 and 0, number 10 as well, does suggest that there is some sort of cyclical completion here. So this is at the root energetically right now for this reading, and this is kind of just embodying the week ahead, really, and a general theme, a general snapshot of where we are collectively in the collective, where we are collectively consciously, maybe subconsciously, and certainly just as a whole, right? The energetic social voice as a whole is really reflected in these readings, and how we interact with that is up to us, right? And this is what this is meant to do, is just kind of facilitate this, right? The Two of Roses, right? The winged messenger. So as much as this is a drama that unfolds between us and another in some way, right? The cup's knocked over, right? And it's very much in the foreground and far away from the home, right? You can see that the home is in the background. And there is this silhouette of the dove of peace. You have the angel that is in the background, and even this hawk that is still coming with a message, suggesting that there's probably more to come. But winged messenger suggests here that despite this conflict in the home, the family, your own heart, there's a call to see this drama through your lens of compassion. And that can be a little difficult when you are not really connecting into your divine self, your higher self, into that part of who you are that's infinite and related to God. So when we've turned away from it, sometimes it's difficult to see this, but we are being called to see this drama, whatever it is, and this conflict as an opportunity to, yes, it's challenging and there may be more, but it's an opportunity to see this conflict in a larger context from a spiritual context, and see how this is providing opportunities for growth, to see ourselves more clearly, and to maybe stand up for ourselves. And we do have the elk here as part of this dynamic. So the Prince of Discs here is our effective, our cause and effect relationship. So talk about, you have two Taurus-based cards on either side here of cause and effect. And so I think really what the success, the idea of not taking anything for granted, learning through wisdom, through loss and disappointment, and a sense of really allowing for things to slow down in this way, or to embody the slowdown, embody a sense of patience, even if we are feeling a little rapacious, right? And we're like, ooh, we need more, or, things aren't moving fast enough, or you're just not in the flow of creative expression as much. This will slow us down regardless, right? So the Prince of Discs is the heir of the earth. And you can see that there is this sense of, look at all these circles here. He is not wearing any armor except for a helmet. There's wings, so you get this mercurial or hermetic aspect, but he also has the bull pulling his chariot as well. And so this is a person who is incredibly stable, industrious, inventive, thoughtful, very slow in following and developing plans and ideas, but once you're going, just completely steady and unwavering. Think about all this Taurus energy we have. Venus, Uranus, the North Node, right? Patient, tolerant. This is all of what the Prince embodies. But once in a rage, this is a very Taurus thing. Once in a rage, there is hardly forgiveness, right? Once the bull is charging, there is no stopping until that energy is dispelled completely. So this person is practical, reasonable, careful, and very, very strong and industrious. So I get the sense here that we, rather than getting caught up in the heart of things and like all of this like passion and activity, especially the moon in Sag, right? We are really feeling into our a sense of strength and meaning here, really kind of gathering in all of those resources. Instead of getting caught up in outputting it or getting caught up in maybe the drama of it, it really is slowing us down so that we can actually put things into action. Time slowing down, or seeming to slow down, or seeming to get just a longer wave function with Saturn retrograde, I feel like it's really allowing us to get into those deeper details, to slow ourselves down, to be more thoughtful, to be more stable, to be more industrious of building what it is that we want, because I think we've released and let go a lot of our own empowerment through this artificially created and in some ways created ourselves polarization. So we have to learn from that rather than getting caught in the loop. And now it's time, and it has been, right? Since the new moon eclipse in Taurus is about cultivation, and it's just going to take some time, and we have to really allow for this patience. So let's look at some guidance that's surrounding this. Well, the Six of Roses keeps coming up, so we know that this, the squaring off still that seems to be happening all around us is something we got to walk away from. Not that there aren't real battles to be fought, but we should make sure we know what they are, and who are we fighting our own family here? Are we, waging a battle that is just a drain on resources, right? is there nothing that can be done at this point? We have to walk away. I think it's interesting that we have the meerkat along with this, because this is about getting support from a trusted group of like-minded friends, much like the Starseed Fellowship, actually. And those, those relationships in your life, your family, your close friends, right? That where you can be honest. And past experiences of hurt and disappointed will create a filter that will see new situations through, right? And it's really important that we allow ourselves the chance to look past that filter. Maybe this Six of Roses is the filter, and we are cutting ourselves off from each other, or from healing relationships, or healing the social relationship in general, right? When we can tap into our higher selves, boy, there's nothing that can hold us back from really coming together. So I feel like that there is something about community here, a sense of not being held back by this old filter system. And part of that is establishing our connection to our higher self. Once we can do that, then we can see every situation through compassion. And it does allow us to see each other, everyone, as a trusted friend, and to know when they're not. That's the other thing too, is our discernment, again, is so important during this time. And the best thing I think we can do right now, if we are experiencing this conflict, and it's still, reverberating, or we're getting kind of caught up in it, is to, or you feel yourself like getting just squashed by it, you have to physically embody a posture that is upright, and you are signaling that you're maintaining your own dignity and your integrity. And that way people will respect you, your position, right? You're not trying to change anybody. You're not trying to convince them anything. You're not even, necessarily suggesting that they're doing anything right or wrong. It's just, this is where I'm at, and this is how I feel, and these are my boundaries. And boundaries are going to be way more relevant when we get into Cancer season. But I will say that asteroid Ceres right now is in conjunction with the fixed star Sirius. And so the nature of our nourishment, our sustenance, how we grow, the fertility of the planet herself. Ceres, as a dwarf planet, represents the goddess Ceres, the goddess of the grain, agriculture, and the triple goddess in a lot of ways, right? The process of the goddess in material form and going through its threefold phase as well. So boundaries are important. Without them, there is no physicality, right? And there's no sense of belonging either. So you may find yourself in the situation, and the Queen of Forces, these two just go hand in hand, right? This is someone who is able to balance peace and power within themselves and maintain this. And this, in effect, will maintain one's own integrity, their dignity, even if they're sitting down at this table and it is not good, or it is very there's a lot of conflict involved. So this may be within yourself, this may be with actual people in your life. It really depends. But collectively, I think this is about, again, the polarization and the conflict, even in our own hearts. I think was here really, we were meant to evolve and learn from this. As per the nodal axis of the moon, that is the soul's journey. So it's never going to end. This is just where we are right now, in terms of the soul's evolution, because if we come from God or the divine spirit or the great spirit and it's infinite, so are we. So it's just an infinite opportunity to keep growing and growing and growing. So that's going to do it for today's reading. And before we move on, I'm just going to briefly cover the astrology, because I've already covered so much of it at the end of last week. We have our full moon tomorrow. Mars is going to conjunct Chiron on the 16th. Mercury is now in Gemini. I just want to share these. If you're not on my email list, you're not on Telegram with us, I just want to share a couple of reading sales. So root power, no matter where you are in the world, the June solstice, either it's your winter or summer solstice, 0 degrees Cancer, this is where the roots are establishing themselves. So regardless of the season, this is the time. Either season is going to be important with the strength of that root system. It's either being established or it's what's keeping the dormant body alive in winter, right? Is the root system. keeps the whole network going. So I'm offering personal astrological forecasts for solstice to solstice. Where is your root power, and 60-minute, 90-minute recording, as you can see. And then I'm offering Starseed readings at a 25% discount right now. So normally, I actually dropped them down to $88 for the Starseed reading. So it's a $66 rate for a 60-minute recording. We go into all your Starseed markings, your natal chart, your progress chart, and really give a firm foundation for the work that builds off of that. So both of these can be booked from my website, linked in the description box below. And like I said, it's on Telegram. If you're not on my email list, you can do that by linking to my website and do that as well. And that's where I send out it's about a bi-monthly newsletter, the new moon, the full moon, and all of the offerings during that time. So, and also the Catalyst Classroom, when it's going to be, what topics we're going to cover. That's all through social media and through my website and the email list. So anyway, let's get into the astrology, just to kind of remind ourselves what the week ahead is really got in store for us astrologically. So, and I'm going to check in with the stream here and see what's going on here. And then I'll link that YouTube video for the History Channel about time. That'll be linked in the description after I'm done broadcasting live. So if you're catching this on the replay, you just got to go down there and you'll find it. And okay, I'm just formatting here and my mouse is dying. So how is everyone doing? Yes, reciprocal. I think I see that too. I feel that. Okay, guys. So today's the 13th of June. Like I said, Mercury is coming into Gemini. This is its home territory. It is still in its retrograde shadow, just a couple more days, and it will finally leave its shadow. And that, I do feel like, is when the individual consciousness is really going to start processing new material in a new way, right? We're still going over and still processing and working with information that we've already passed over 2 other times during Mercury's whole retrograde period. So it's going to be I would say by the weekend, when Mercury moves into that 5th degree, 5th to 6th degree, right? Which, oh, by the way, that is where it's going to be conjunct the Hyades star cluster. So our first Catalyst Classroom session actually was all about the Aldebaran new moon and the Hyades location for Starseed. So Mercury is going to leave shadow, its retrograde shadow, and start activating Hyades Starseed. So that's something to look out for as well in the near future. So boy, oh boy. And we talked a lot about the mythology of the Hyades in terms of Greek mythology, in terms of ancient astrology, in terms of the actual location in the sky, and then the Hyades starseeds and what that's all about. So that's going to be another really strong activation that we're going to talk about later in the week. So, and is always up for a conversation in our private Telegram channel for the Starseed Fellowship. So that's lots of channels to be able to commune and talk about this stuff, but I will address it at the end of the week when it's most assuredly going to be happening. So Venus is still in Taurus. Like I said, Mercury coming into Gemini today. Our moon is in Sag, has already had a trine with Jupiter, and Mars, and Chiron is coming into a trine with Chiron later today. So again, this is great opportunities here to either tap into our inner strength, right, that then allows for an outer projection of who we are, right, Mars and Aries, even to allow ourselves to heal from who we've been and bust out of that old role too, in a way that is... There is understanding, there's deep understanding, there's internal understanding, there's optimism, there's like a big picture here that we're all kind of grokking internally and intuitively that comes from something that we have gone through already the last 2 years. So this is, the moon in Sag today is going to be like, yes, and then coming into the full moon tomorrow morning, Eastern time, is just going to be a culmination. So remember, full moon, culmination. So what culminates in terms of our own internal, emotional landscape, how we feel, what we're intuiting, that is going to play itself out as the moon moves through this dissemination period, leading up to our third quarter. So we'll talk about that, of course, at the astrology report at the end of the week. But I get the sense here that as we go through this week here, let's just check in one more time here, that we have our 14th is the full moon. We see that the Venus and the north node of the moon are going to be conjunct, opposite, she'll be opposite the south node. So again, this is that Prince of Disc, I think, is really going to come online in a way where we feel into, we are sensitive to what is actually valuable, right? Here's that Six of Discs as well as the causal factor, a real physical, material, visceral experience in our bodies. We feel the shift of the electromagnetics within ourselves, with the planet, with the people and the animals and the plants around us, everything. And we establish deeply how important and valuable it is to align our soul with something that is growing from the natural harmonics, right? We've already played with the scorpionic urge and drive to create more, right? And this is part of the reason why our banking system and our economy is tanking right now. So, being aligned with and sensitive to this soul journey with Venus and the North Node this week is, very, very strong. And Chiron in Aries and Mars in Aries will be conjunct on the 16th. So right around the same time, they're going to have this relationship. The Sun is going to trine Saturn retrograde, and Lilith, Black Moon Lilith, is going to be right in tow with the Sun. And so there is a moment, again, like this stasis moment in terms of identifying like the most basic archetypal expression of who we are, or identifying with the most basic elements of the polarization, right? Everything is stripped down to its basic element. And I get, this strong sense of balance here for and responsibility, right? The Sun trining Saturn just normally is some really a really strong ego that is utilized for leadership, responsibility, a sense of getting shit done, right? And in terms of the air, this is Gemini and Aquarius. So this also is in terms of our conscious awareness, our own thoughts and conceptions, and how that is feeding into the overall pattern or resonance of the larger collective voice, and how it's part of actually establishing efficient functioning, our own efficient functioning, and the making sure that the battery is going to hold the charge, so to speak, right? And I think when you get rid of all of the other extraneous things, right, and strip it all down to its base essentials in our own voice, then I think that we're going to get somewhere in terms of how to, establish the social and human collective to hold where the collective consciousness is really going. Because it's going there. That's part of the evolution, right? There's the idea that we as our own ego self are somehow controlling it. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. And again, if you're tapped into your higher self, then you know what really is the mechanism of evolution and nature. So, this is moving through the week, right? This is about the time we're also going to get this solar wind from the coronal hole from the Sun. So I also suspect that we're going to get some upgrades right? With the plasma and the solar wind coming to the planet, and in some ways like burning off, right? We've been talking about this fire element that has been really strong. People getting sunburn, people having heat exhaustion. I know I went through that too. The sunburn and just purification by fire is a big as the sun continues to wake up now. I get the sense that this is going to become way more relevant and is going to be part of establishing the larger social collectives functioning, right? And it has a lot to do with who and what you're aligned with, and if you're aligned with your own higher self, or if you are just receiving still the signals. And Mars conjunct Chiron on the 16th is going to be a big part of establishing that for ourselves. It'll become really I think it'll become it'll either burn off or burn you away, right? When Mars and Chiron come into this conjunction like this. Now the sun and Neptune are in a square as well, while the sun is in a trine. So this mutable square, and Neptune is like, we're all kind of going down this lazy river in the fog right now, and things are starting to split off into their own little tributaries. And when Neptune stations retrograde at the end of June, right before the next new moon, which will be in Cancer, so post solstice, things are going to clear up, and we're going to the fog will not be so thick outwardly, and we will be establishing, okay, let's see here what still needs to be purified at a soul level within ourselves before we can really move forward. So here is time being absolutely, completely irrelevant to us with Neptune in Pisces. So I think that is it can be very confusing, right? Especially when your own sense of self and your identity is really getting stripped away in terms of that polarization down to the very nature of positive and negative, right? It's archetypalization, where Neptune in Pisces is like, everything is here, right? And just kind of, moving from a sense of unity into now a new thought form, a new creation, a new creative potential, right? Neptune and Aries. So, but we're not quite there yet, right? We're not quite there because Neptune's going to station retrograde. So, this mutable square, though, is the battle with our identification with our consciousness versus like just surrendering to the transcendental or cosmic flow as it's taking us in a new direction. It's not all seeming, it's not all the same. Our responses to life and our evolution is not all the same. Now you do see at this moment the moon is in a conjunction with Pluto retrograde. So that's also going to be very much part of the conversation as we move through the week, and establishing again within ourselves like that destructive elimination, transformation, metamorphosis, right? Real power being unearthed and distributed in a lot of ways from the collective establishments just being destroyed and within ourselves now. And so again, it can get very difficult to maintain a sense of balance when you are personally connecting with, everything in reality that I know is reality is actually being destroyed down to the energetic studs, so to speak. This trine with the sun and Saturn retrograde is where it's at, right? This is the thing that balances us in terms of our higher selves, right? This is where connecting to the light of the world, right, is really important going through the week, because there'll be lots of challenges in our fields and mostly in our fields as the moon moves through, right? So it'll be nice to have this full moon in Sag, right? All the blessings abound right now with this, but then from there it's going to get into the social expression and how that actually manifests within us as it's applied to these much larger, right? Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, especially. And then the third quarter moon is going to be the last degree of Pisces. So just keep in mind here that this is also going to be the challenge of experiencing the blessings that are abound with this full moon as it touches on all of these very large transpersonal larger cycles that are represented by Neptune and Saturn, and especially Pluto retrograde. So but lots of, you know, Mars and Venus in their home signs right now. These are very personal planets. They allow us to connect in to aspects that have to do with the individual consciousness and its growth and development here. So it's bringing our awareness back to, just like in the tarot reading, it's bringing our awareness back to the drama and the conflict. And it's in our establishment with our higher self that is really going to, you know, stabilize us and ground us as we are kind of going through all of the twists and turns of the week, and all of, you know, maybe some revelations, certainly a deep sense of where we're actually going at a soul level and tapping into the planet. So, yeah, I think that's it for today's Starseed ministry. If anybody has any questions, all the ways to contact me or be part of the conversation are in the description box below. I shared all my promotional material with you. So you guys have a really great week. We'll be doing the Catalyst Classroom on Thursday evening. Keep an eye out for that material. We also will be live on Friday for the weekly astrology report. There's plenty of astrology related to tomorrow's full moon that is available out on the interwebs, and certainly through this channel as well. And yeah, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you so much. All of your contribution, your conversation, right? Being part of the experience, and just very generally, just thank you for being here as a starseed, because your work is invaluable, right? We all are here to offer our unique resonance to this process, and it only really works when everybody is truly on board. So we still have some work to do, and we have more time than I think we think to do it. And right, it's cultivating. Sometimes you have to, as the seeds are sprouting and growing, because there are things that you don't see necessarily that are also happening, that we can lose patience. So try not to get caught up in the rashness and the rapaciousness of the Eight of Wands reversed, and see it as an opportunity to really start to slow your roll and be very connected into what is inherently valuable, because that's going to, you know, be your guidance system as we navigate these really difficult times. So love you guys. Thank you for being here. Have a great Monday. Have a great week. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.